Hey everyone, welcome back to the Comfy Christian Podcast. Thanks for joining me for another episode. Today we're going to be talking about Christian boundaries. So let's begin. Setting boundaries in relationships, friends, family, or dating is important, not only for yourself, but the growth of your relationships and your faith. Although it can be difficult if you have a relationship where you did not set boundaries from the start. Having personal boundaries does not always mean you are unloving and defensive. It means you know who you are and you respect yourself. Scripture tells us there will be moments when we need to sacrifice and let things go, but that doesn't mean we can't have boundaries. Christian boundaries are talked about regularly in the Bible. As Christians, we want to set boundaries that honor God and our faith, while also demonstrating our beliefs. A lack of boundaries can create significant problems because without them, you can lose a sense of who you are. Not only that, but you can place yourself into some dangerous situations. Setting boundaries as a Christian is a healthy and clear way to protect yourself and your loved ones from negative worldly influences. Having good boundaries can help strengthen your faith and your relationships. As Christians, the New Testament can be helpful when setting boundaries. Here are some examples of boundaries we should have as Christians. To be honest and direct. Honesty is a big one. Don't lie and don't try to hide something. Be truthful and direct. Yes and no responses do not need explanations if your boundaries are being crossed. Simply let your yes be a yes or your no be a no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. Matthew chapter 5 verse 37. Do not lie to each other, since you have taken off your old self with its practices and have put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge in the image of its creator. Colossians chapter 3 verses 9 to 10. Do not curse or gossip. Whether you're swearing, wishing harm on someone, or speaking ill against them to others, you're spreading negativity. As Christians, we want to encourage and be kind towards others, spreading positivity. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may be beneficial to those who listen. Ephesians chapter 4 verses 29. Besides, they get into the habit of being idle and going about from house to house. And not only do they become idlers, but they are also busybodies who talk nonsense, saying things they ought not to. 1 Timothy chapter 5 verse 13. Pleasing God and not people. Our only reward at the end of our lives is eternity in heaven with God. We should seek his praise by following and sharing his word. How can you believe if you accept praise from one another, yet make no effort to obtain the praise that comes from the only God? John chapter 5 verse 44. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good. Romans chapter 12 verse 2. On the contrary, we speak as those approved by God, to be entrusted with the gospel. We are not trying to please people, but God, who tests our heart. 1 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 4. Setting our priorities. Our priorities as Christians should be following Jesus Christ's teachings, not prioritizing worldly things. Prioritizing our time and relationship with Jesus should come first. No servant can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. Luke chapter 16, verse 13. Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. Colossians chapter 3, verse 2. Personal prayer time. Taking time daily to spend alone in prayer with no distractions. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father, who is unseen. Matthew chapter 6, verse 6. One of those days, Jesus went out to the mountainside to pray and spend the night praying to God. Luke chapter 6, verse 12. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up. James chapter 4, verses 10. Obey God. As Christians, we should obey Jesus' teachings. He provided our salvation. Jesus replied, "Anyone who loves me will obey my teachings. My Father will love them, and will come to them and make our home with them." John chapter 14, verse 23. Setting our boundaries as Christians should be to glorify God and strengthen our relationship with Him, helping us to keep His commands and live righteously. The importance of setting Christian boundaries is to protect and strengthen you in your faith and your relationship with Jesus Christ. So, if that makes sense, it's not that we as Christians are setting boundaries to push others away. It's so that we can be with like minded people who also have boundaries that are based on their faith in Jesus Christ and what He taught us, that we should obey God and the teachings that they gave us so that we can live righteously and be able to join everyone in heaven eternally. Thank you for joining me on this episode of The Comfy Christian. Please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think of my episodes. I know they're a little bit short, but this is only the first season. I just want to touch on small subjects and be able to get your toes a little wet. Because next season, which we're only partway through the first season, next season, we'll have a lot longer episodes where we'll be opening each different book of the Bible, talking different verses, and explaining how it's important to share those verses and giving examples of sharing our faith with those verses. So thank you again for joining me, and I hope you have a blessed day.